Okay, it says we're live.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Uh-oh. You know what? I wonder if there's okay, maybe my signal is a problem. Well, let's see. I can always
Yeah.
turn I can
Hi,
always turn off
everybody.
my signal if we need to, but I
Okay, that's great. I'm just gonna see. If we're on your signal, I don't know that it'll go to Instagram, but welcome everybody. And Celeste and I are so excited to chat with you today about things that we have been talking about behind the scenes. And so we have this awesome text thread going with our friend Sarah El Harar, and we just were on the phone yesterday, and we have some good ideas that are brewing for you. So we're just hoping that this conversation inspires you, gives you some clarity, and like Celeste said, just makes you excited to be alive, that we're here during this unique time in history. I thought that was such a great way to say it. So I think I'm gonna give up on Instagram.
yeah, it's
And
not live on Instagram.
yeah, I'm just giving it one more go here.
I'm gonna spray my creative flow spray so that I can just it's stuck. Oh, there we go.
Perfect. Okay, I don't know.
It's from the Blossom Bar. My friend Dory creates these essences. It's really beautiful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Blossom Bar. Amazing. Well, we have some structure planned for the day. We wanted to talk to you guys about Mars and Gemini. So Mars is moving into Gemini, and the structure of the talk, we want to talk about the 2-year cycle that just started. We want to talk about what it means to have Mars in Gemini, because Celeste does, and the United States of America does. We want to talk about the Paris Olympics coming up. We want to talk about, let's see, the last time that Mars moved through Gemini, because it might help you see some themes. And we have some surprise topics coming in. I know that we want to talk about Trump. We want to talk about the election. We want to talk about some hot topics that are happening on August 19th. And so this is a little bit broader than Mars and Gemini, but that's what Mars and Gemini does. It scatters energy and information.
Exactly. That's what it does. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about, let's just do a quick intro of both of us. So in case anybody doesn't know, who we are.
Absolutely.
So I'm Celeste Brooks of Astrology by Celeste. I'm an astrologer, a coach, and an intuitive. And my website is astrologybyceleste.com. My podcast is Celestial Insights, which helps you surf the energies of the week like a boss. Mundane astrology is my jam. So I love talking about how, as above, so below, we see events on Earth in the collective news around the cycles, as well as your personal life. That's me.
Yeah, I love, like, that is your jam, and you're so good at that, and it's awesome to be Celeste's friend, because I can say, ah la la, this thing happened, and she automatically has a astrological reason for it, and she's like, that's astrology in action, and it is. It's so fascinating to see that as above, so below. And her name's Celeste, which, how cool is that, to be an astrologer with a celestial name? So I love you. I adore you. I'm Tiffany Harelik, and I practice in Texas. I've been studying astrology since 2000, since I got off my horse and walked into a metaphysical bookstore, and there was a Taurus teaching about astrology. And so I fell in love with it because it made it okay to be me. I sunk into my bones. I felt seen. And I felt like there was a plan and divine order in a very otherwise chaotic experience. So astrology, I just love it. I have a master's in health psychology. I'm a master teacher under Lisa Williams. I had a near-death experience when I was 14 that opened my psychic abilities and gifts. So in addition to astrology, I'm really passionate about helping people with their spiritual gifts and understanding them and using them as a strength. And so if I'm not doing star charts and psychic development, you can find me on the yoga mat. I'm a beekeeper. And I've created the digital astrology calendar that is kind of my signature product that I absolutely love getting out there in the world. So that's me in a nutshell. And yeah, you can find me at tiffanyharelik.com, TiffanyHarelik. I have the Tiffany Harelik podcast as well. And that's me. So let's
So I
move.
have a question. Did
Yeah.
you really get off a horse and go into a bookstore?
Yeah.
Oh my God, what a Sag rising story. The Sag rising in Sagittarius is, the horse gallops up to the bookstore.
I mean, I went in
Gemini experience because your descendants, the people in the bookstore were Gemini. And
right. I
yeah,
get
it
chills
changed the structure of your daily life. You have Taurus in the 6th house, right?
Yeah,
I'm
totally. Exactly.
introducing you to this beautiful tool of astrology.
Mhm.
Love it.
Yeah, right. Was wearing I can still remember it. I was the riding pants I was wearing, the boots. I was like a fish out of water. And I'm that way in both worlds, in my astrology world, I'm a little like too country, and in my country world, I'm a little too out there with the astrology. And so that's just me.
I'm gonna make sure we're broadcasting to your channel. Let's see. It
Okay.
still says upcoming. So
Huh.
you're not
It says
broadcasting to your channel.
it says live. Um
Oh, well, maybe. Okay. Let's just
it
keep
says,
going.
yeah. Will you guys give us a comment if
But 7 people are waiting.
okay. Yeah, I see that 7 people are waiting. We're having some
I just told them we're
jam.
having technical difficulties.
I don't know what to
Should I
do
tell
this.
them to come to Astrology by Celeste?
Oh, here. I see. I'm in it now. You are live.
Okay.
So if you start it, I then have to also.
Okay.
How are we
Okay,
now?
everybody. It's the sun today. The sun. Here I go. The sun in Cancer is sextile Uranus. Uranus in Taurus. And Uranus is like a higher octave of Mercury. So when Uranus is activated, it can feel a little bit Mercury retrograde, where you're having technical issues. And yeah, it's a little topsy-turvy. But now, okay, now we're live on your channel. Okay.
Amazing. Okay.
So, everybody, we've been talking. We're having some technical things going on, but now we are getting started about Mars in Gemini. Yes, yes. And you can watch the beginning if you want to hear a little more about, if you want to peruse our difficulties.
Right. Well, yes, and so thank you for helping explain that with astrology in action. Yeah, do we reintroduce ourselves or do we keep going?
No, let's just keep going. People can
All right.
learn about us if they want. Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Well, something I think that spurred this whole conversation, right? We're talking about Mars moving into Gemini, but Mars actually just had a big transit as it was conjunct Uranus July 15th. And that's something that we've been talking about. We've kind of been curious how it's going to unfold with the astrology in action. And so, it dawned on me when you and I were chatting the other day, you said, okay, this is the new 2-year cycle. And duh, of course, that is going to create a new 2-year cycle with a big, huge, impactful transit like that. And so I thought we could start there. Is that okay?
Yeah. No, well, let's first. What is Mars? Like, how do you describe Mars when you talk to people?
Okay,
Mars?
sure. Yeah. I jump in at a different level. So for me, right, like Mars, you think about the divine masculine, you think about focus, like the arrow and the energy pointing us in a direction. You think about what's really motivating you, what you have energy to do. It's the foot on the gas pedal. I have Mars in the first, and so I'm always a little bit ahead of myself, in the first house. Mars, again, it shows not only just what drives us, but it can also show on the challenging side where there is trauma, where there is drama, where Mars rules knives and guns and weapons and things like this. So there can be areas of self-sabotage as well. And so I think it's important to understand that there's a spectrum of information and frequency available when we're looking at any one planet or any one sign. And so, yeah, Mars isn't the bad guy, but he can be. And so there's this a nuanced way of looking at it. And how do you talk about Mars?
Yeah, so I love that, Tiffany. I talk about Mars as being that what motivates us to get out of the bed. It's very primal. Mars
Mhm.
is where we're not thinking about what anyone else wants, like how we want to take our action and go forward. And we learn through life the Venusian principles. Okay, I want this, but I have to keep in mind there's some collaboration with other people and and not just charge forward with what I want. It rules. Mars strives, it achieves, it competes, it severs at its principle, it severs and separates. So you can think about in competition, the winner. You can think about like when you said with the knives and things, how it can cut things off. Now Mars is a malefic, so it takes away from life rather than adds to it. So that's something to always think about. But we need Mars. It's what it's that internal drive. Tiffany, I think there's something wrong because there's not the thing that shows the number of people watching.
Oh, I've got it now. So maybe I'm in control.
Okay. So are there people watching? Okay.
Yeah, there's people watching, people
Oh,
commenting.
I can't see anyone commenting. Oh, you know what? Here we go. Now I see people. Okay.
Oh,
What
awesome.
a doozy this morning. This is Uranus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yes, this is Uranus. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
okay. So Mars. What else could we say about Mars, right? It's the spiritual warrior. It's action, it's fuel, it shows us where we need to again point our energy. And so the challenging side of pointing your energy is having blinders on and not seeing anything else in the periphery. So I have a friend that has an old family saying that's like me first, after after you, me first. I can't remember how it goes now, but that's very Mars. There's a pioneering energy. It's first to the table, first to speak, interrupt sometimes. When you're feeling and experiencing Mars transits, they occur 3 to 5 days early. And so, Mars comes in hot. It's a fire planet. It's fiery. And then if we shift to talk about Gemini, right? Like there's so much to Gemini. Gemini rules the shoulders, the lungs, the hands, the wrists in medical. I was going to say psychology, in medical astrology. Gemini is the wind. It talks. It's how we talk, how we communicate. It rules other things than just communication, and it can talk about public transportation, trains, planes, automobiles. Maybe not planes. Planes was more of a Sag thing. Gemini, the way that we write, the way that we get bullet points across, the way that we understand things, our learning style. Recently, I took several students through an astrology certification program, and in their final exam, one of the questions was to talk about Mercury through the signs in terms of learning styles. And the goal was, how would you help a child or person, learn knowing what sign their Mercury is in. So Gemini is ruled by Mercury. You can think about those themes as well. Gemini tends to scatter information. It's the social butterfly. It's friendly. There's good back and forth with Gemini. It does represent a division. Tell me a little bit about your Gemini things.
Yeah. Well, it says I'm having trouble connecting. So let me try to switch to my. I just tried to put a comment. Let me try to switch to my. To my
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
you switch your internets, and I'll
Yeah.
keep talking about
Keep
Gemini.
talking. I was just saying Gemini is a mutable air sign. It has a dualistic nature, is something to always remember about Gemini. Gemini likes to do things twice. So that's something, yeah, it really encourages us because Gemini is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury is a trickster. And it really encourages us to have a sense of humor. Oh, good, you can hear and see us both. Okay, maybe I don't need to change. But I tried to write a comment in the chat and it said having trouble. So whatever, we're just gonna keep going. Thank you, Pamela, for letting us know. Yeah, so Gemini, and I have Mars in Gemini, and so sometimes like I want to jump in, like you were talking about, and give my commentary with things, because Mars does that want to be first, and Gemini to communicate my thought processes. So that could be something around that. But Gemini likes to gather the facts, and it's just like, it can be all of like just more, like the forever student. I just need the information and the knowledge because it's like food to me. Yeah, that can be strong Gemini.
Speaking of food, you guys know that I used to write cookbooks, and I have a strong like interest in gardening and food and cooking and culinary stuff. So if you think about Mars and Gemini, this would be a good time to take knife skills classes. It's Gemini rules the hand, so I think about finger foods, fast foods that are easy to snack on. This is not like the season of long, slow, sensual Taurus cooking with crock pots and bubbling things. This is about quick, something that you can get on the go. And then you also want to think about foods that nourish your nervous system, right? Mercury, ruled by Gemini, rules the nervous system. So Mars, if you're in fight or flight in your nervous system, foods or supplements or activities that calm the nervous system can be really useful as you're thinking about Mars moving through Hotel Gemini. Yeah.
Love it. I love how you brought that in. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah. But the Gemini is like that inner radio. It's what station are you tuned to? What frequency are you listening to? And so with Mars there, you might notice that the radio station that you're listening to has a little bit more aggression to it, has a little bit more assertiveness to it, has a little bit more offense to it rather than defense. So
rock and roll.
Yeah, rock and roll for sure.
Rock and roll music. We're moving from R&B to rock and roll.
I love it. Yeah, like all the bangers, all the ones that you can really jam to. Absolutely.
So what are the dates for the transit of Mars in the sign of Gemini?
Okay, so let's see. I just lost my notes document. So Mars and Gemini now, as we're recording in July, Mars will enter Gemini July 20th. It'll stay there through September 24th. Okay, so Mars and Gemini, July 20th through September 24th. And what's interesting is that Jupiter is there too, right? Big brother. That could be used the wrong way. Gemini and Jupiter and Mercury, brothers in arms of communication, of short books and long novels, of short trips and long journeys. So Mars transiting in Gemini is going to be traveling with his astrological brother Jupiter. You can think about, the things that, okay. Did you have something that you wanted to add there before I go into it?
No, Anne's not seeing the chats. Anne, we can see your comment. There's a couple comments in there, but I don't know why you can't see them.
I'm seeing them.
Yeah, but if you want to say anything, Anne, we can see what you're writing.
We'll see yours. Yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, the chats are going to be below or off to the right, depending on how you have your monitor set up. So if you're thinking about Mars and Gemini, the last time that Mars was moving through Gemini was a really long period because of the retrograde period. So every 2 years, Mars will have a retrograde period that lasts for a couple of months. And so Mars was in Gemini for 7 months last time, and this was in late August of 2022 through March of 2023. So if you want to look back or reflect or journal over what was going on, I think, there's a lot of activity that we had in the news where Gemini rules public schools and elementary level schools. And so there was some news about violence at schools or reframing bullying at schools or working through some of those issues. I remember being thinking about that during that time. You can see astrology in action.
Yeah, the big story. So that was a big Mars in Gemini that you can go back and look at, because Mars went retrograde in the sign of Gemini. So it stayed there it normally just stays in a sign 60 weeks or so, but it was, what was it, 4 or 5 months, because it appeared to go backward in the sky. Now, the biggest story of that was when Elon Musk bought Twitter and proceeded to Mars through it like a hedge trimmer, and fired all these people, changed everything. It was just chaos at Twitter, and it's never recovered from that. Like, so many people left it because it just became, what he did was, because one of the things that Twitter had, one of its biggest things about its branding was, you knew that when you were reading whatever the New York Times or whatever person was saying, it's really what they were saying, because they had that blue check mark of authenticity. And what he did, and you knew it was a fact, Gemini, that's who was communicating with you. And what he did with Mars is sell the blue checks, so they no longer had any meaning. So there were all these fake accounts being created with a blue check, and it caused this calamity about something about prescription drugs, like saying insulin was going to be free or something. I don't remember the exact story, but it caused one of the pharmaceutical companies to lose all this market cap or something. So that was an example of, because Mars is a malefic, and so it can cause problems and troubles. And that was an example. Also, the train, when Mars stationed to go direct around that time, it might not have been to the day, but the train in East Palestine that had that big transportation, Gemini rules transportation explosion.
Isn't that wild? I mean,
those were 2 stories. Yeah.
2 big stories. And so what's going to be different about this Mars and Gemini cycle? What do you think?
Well, it's not going to go retrograde. So it's just going to be going straight through, but it's going to meet Jupiter, and Jupiter makes everything bigger. So one of the biggest thing about this transit is to remember that Gemini is kind of nervous energy. Like Tiffany was saying, Mars stimulates it to be even more nervous energy. And then it meets Jupiter, and Jupiter expands everything. And so Mars, Jupiter can be success, but in Gemini, it's successfully writing. Like David Sedaris is Mars conjunct Jupiter in Gemini. He's this really great writer who's witty and acerbic. That's the Mars in Gemini. And he's prolific. He's written all these books. Me Talk Pretty One Day is one of my favorite books. Do you know David Sedaris?
Yeah.
I love him. Okay. So, but it can also...
His sister is also hilarious and prolific. And
Amy Sedaris is hysterical.
Yeah, entertaining while under the influence, I think, was her cookbook. Hilarious.
Yeah. Now, this is why these next couple of days, it's so important to ground yourself and let yourself calm down while Mars is still in Taurus. Do an inventory about how you're feeling, because if not, what could happen is, if you're already a little stressed or a little anxious, it could just go spiraling as Mars goes into Gemini and starts to meet Jupiter. But then what's happening is then Mars will square Saturn. And that's when it's Mars is the gas, Saturn's the brake, and Saturn in Pisces. And this could be like a breakdown energy where someone has like a psychological kind of something where they start screaming at their kids, or a stranger in the parking lot, or, just in a puddle of tears, so this is why it's so important to recognize this is coming and take care of your nervous system.
Yeah, nervous system health is huge. So you said that's up for success biochemically with what you put into your body, with how you take care of your gut health, and then also how you take care of your mind, your meditation practices, what news sources you listen to, what you feed your mind. That's going to create your nervous system health for sure. And if you have any pinched nerves, right, like this would be a good time to look into chiropractic, to look into acupuncture, lymphatic draining, and taking care of your nervous system in a real and physical way. I was like, because I was scanning for the date. So Mars is conjunct Jupiter in Gemini on August 14th. And so that's when we're going to have that power surge. Mars fuels the power surge, Jupiter makes it bigger. Whether that's something that's going to be good news or challenging news is kind of karmic, right? Like that's where the free will comes into play. How you choose to handle this big, powerful energy. Some people, Jupiter rules publishing. Some people might have a book launch, right? Like that's an awesome time to get the word out there and promote something. Other people might experience it totally differently. Jupiter rules religions and philosophies and holy places and sacred temples. And so with Mars right next to that, do you have spiritual traumas? Are you, one of my clients calls herself a recovering Catholic, right? Which is just a nod to overcoming guilt. Were you in a yoga experience and the teacher turned out to not be who you thought they were? Surprise, like everybody's a person. And so when we Jupiterize them, or we spiritualize them, or we put them on pedestals, right? And then it gives them a place to fall. So Mars next to Jupiter could also show you some of those. There could be some things like, did you guys see, is it Athlete A on Netflix, I think produced it, but you can see some of the traumas from being involved with bigger communities and putting it out there in a big way. So whether
Athlete A?
Isn't that what it's called?
I don't know. I'll check it out.
It's awful. I mean, it's about the United States gymnastics team being abused. And so that, to me, Mars can bring some of that up. Where have we been abused or received abused or been the abuser?
And gymnastics is, sorry.
That's okay. And Jupiter is about justice being served and getting the word out. And so to me, like that's unfortunately a good example of how that energy can play out. Mars is sporty. Mars is athletic. Mars is competitive. I'm not predicting
that. I want to stay on gymnastics.
Okay.
Because the Olympics is about to start, and gymnastics is a Gemini sport. Mars and Gemini gymnastics. And because Gemini dexterous, you need like flexibility. Gemini is a mutable sign. So you need all that flexibility. So such a great example to bring up. And I think what we need to be doing is looking for the action to take place on Saturday, August 10th. And why I'm saying that, because you talked about, what day did you say Mars meets?
August 8th. Oh, just kidding. I'm sorry. I'm just kidding. It's August 14th is the exact date of Mars-Jupiter conjunction. So you'll feel it early and it'll release.
Okay. And you're talking about how it comes in earlier. Now, on Monday, the 12th is a first quarter moon. So Monday, August 12th is a first quarter moon in the sign of Scorpio. And first quarter moons are times of action. So there may be some big action on that date, but there also could be action as soon as the moon goes into Scorpio, and that's happening on Saturday. So Saturday night, Sunday night, and Monday of that weekend are things to be fairly mindful that you might see the action, because first quarter moons are times of action when people take action. Like when President Trump was shot, it was a first quarter moon. Yeah.
I want to go back to that, but before we leave gymnastics, you also had a note about August 2nd, and that's where Venus is squaring Uranus. So we might see some action around that day too, because we're leading into the Mars-Jupiter conjunction. We've got Venus and Uranus shaking things up, things that are unexpected, things that you want to just trust that the universe has your back, right? We can have unexpected surprise parties. We can also have unexpected expenses. And that's how I used to describe Venus-Uranus squares until my little description came true. So what I used to say was, you might have some, it's like when the kids come home from the dentist and all of a sudden you have braces, and that happened in our household. And I was like, I got to come up with a new way to teach this. But Venus squares Uranus. And I think the reason that you brought that up was that you were talking about the Olympics, July 26th through August 11th, and that maybe being a significant date. So do you want to share a little bit more about that before we talk about the other juicy stuff?
So the Olympics, like just talk about where we are right now. The Olympics are in Paris, and I don't know. I wrote something. I like to write on threads, and just sometimes I just download things I'm thinking. Not everything is, whatever. And I thought one of the things I wrote is for some of the people who weren't able to get to the Olympics to consider it's a blessing in disguise. Consider yourself lucky that you didn't get to go. Because what I'm getting with this Mars conjunct Jupiter, and then they're both going to square Saturn, like the energy of this Olympics is like go, 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 go. But Jupiter, which rules awards and successes, is in the sign of its detriment. And Mars, it's just the energy is really kind of chaotic. And there's something about the next eclipse that can be physical injury. So one of the things I think we're going to see at the Olympics, unfortunately, is more athletes having some kind of physical injury. And with that Venus square Uranus, I was just a little bit concerned about like gymnastics. Like there could be some kind of, someone's doing a tumbling pass, which is Gemini, and they have a little bit of a problem. Maybe not.
With wrists, like with wrists and shoulders, like that's where we're gonna see it, So bless you all. Support your wrists, athletes. Be wrist healthy out there, and shoulders, of course.
But it's also going to be like really loud, I think, there in Paris, because there's the social upheaval where people are mad about it's the horrible the what's going on in Gaza, the human suffering, and I think there'll be a lot of protests and things like that. And the other thing is the Sun. So Saturn's in Pisces. So Mars and Saturn, these people who are competing in that filthy river that supposedly is cleaned up, and they may not realize until Mars squares Saturn, but then they have Saturn rules the skin, and Pisces water, and that dirty water, and Saturn and Neptune. There may be some athletes that come down with a rash or something on their skin from swimming in that Seine River.
Right? Or like intestinal stuff. Like that's
yes. I think Paris's reputation is going to be somewhat potentially damaged by some of the stuff that goes on at the Olympics, as this, because they've got this romantic, Paris, the city of love, it's so beautiful, cultured, blah, 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 blah. But the dirty river,
yeah. And it is. Have you been to Paris? Have you been?
I love Paris. It's one of my favorite cities in the world. Now, I haven't been there since in over 10 years, but I love, love, love Paris.
Yeah. Well, I've only been once. I've only been once, and I was shocked. I mean, it was absolutely not what I was expecting. It was a very difficult trip for me. And there's many things to love about Paris, but there's also some of my worst like travel experiences happened there, and it was shocking for me, to
Was it
see.
people being rude to you?
Oh yeah, I mean, I ended up like this is so much of an overshare. So thank you, internet, for being nice to me. But I ended up saying I was from Mexico the second half of the time and speaking Spanish because it was when it's like you're from Texas and you're just happy to be alive. It was not very well received. So,
How funny! Like I
that
was
one?
terrified people were going to be mean to me as an
Yeah.
American, and I didn't have a single problem with anyone being nasty to me. And I've been to Paris like 5 times.
Oh yeah. It was a very difficult it was an eye-opening Uranian experience. I loved going to see Jim Morrison's grave. Like that was the highlight of my trip. I wished I hadn't gone to the catacombs. It still haunts me. But there was great extremes involved. The art, of course, was incredible, unparalleled. Anyways, we're off on a tangent, but it'll be interesting to see what happens to Paris's reputation through all of these transits this summer.
We'll see,
You
because
know,
Saturn brings clarity, so we see some of the underbelly.
and cuts the BS away, right?
Yeah.
So we're kind of leading into the big August 19th whammies that I want to talk about. Is this a good time, or do we want to do something
Yeah, let's
else?
go to August 19th. Yeah.
Okay.
I think we give
So
people understand. And if you put in a question, if you have a question about Mars and Gemini, but I think we really have given the flavor of this. It's like it's fast energy. It's, just be mindful about impulsivity and your mouth, what you say. Mars and Gemini can be fighting words. So you will see people, talking more aggressively. Also, rappers are Mars and Gemini, so be prepared for Kanye. What is he going to do next? Rappers to make news with that.
and to change, Gemini is
Oh,
about
and a Trump endorsement: Mars conjunct Jupiter and Gemini by a rapper. Oh, great! Yeah, like that's something coming. Yes, I've
right.
been looking at Simone Biles' chart.
Oh,
Another
and
big feature of this Mars and Gemini that we really need to talk about before we get there is
yeah.
that, okay, so when your planets rule certain signs, so Mars rules Aries and Scorpio, and when a planet's in its sign, it can do what it does with ease, with no problem, good or bad, blah blah blah. Now, when a planet's in another sign that's not at home, then it reports into the planet that it's like going to someone else's house and having to follow their rules in a sense. So
That's
Mars and
such a great way of
Gemini,
saying it. Yes.
it's Mercury rules Gemini. So what we do is we look to see what Mercury's doing. Now, what happens, what we need to be aware of is that Mercury is going to go into Virgo and then station to go retrograde on August 4th. And retrogrades are an affliction where there's disagreements, conflicts, mistakes, delays, all of this kind of stuff. This is another reason the Olympics are going to be really difficult, having this competition with Mars purporting into Mercury that's stationing and then goes retrograde. It stations during the Olympics to go retrograde, and Mars
Yeah,
is
like
reporting.
there's a team that's not going to make it on time. The subway's going to stop. There's going to be some travel issue. For you can see it coming so clearly, right? And so get there early, teams. Plan lots of room for delays and obstacles. Okay, I'm going to pass on that thought. I'm going to let that thought just go on through. That's a great tool for Mars and Gemini. You don't have to say every thought that comes to your mind. There can be a lot of self-sabotage tendencies, but the duality of Gemini, right? Wherever you have Gemini in your chart, I usually tell people you need to do it two things or two different ways, or there's multiple aspects of what you're trying to do. So, right, Gemini in the 10th house, sometimes I see people having two jobs or two different flavors of their job, or they're this way at work, but a very different way at home. And so Gemini gives you that duality and that kind of same side or different side of the same coin type of a feeling, you know? And so you were talking about rappers, and I was scrolling. This will surprise some of you, but Young Gravy is on my feed, and I noticed that he's doing a country now. And so he has a biscuits and gravy tour that I'm not trying to promote. I'm just saying, like, this is an example of somebody that was one genre that's trying out another genre. So you might find that you felt this way and now you feel this way. And that's going to speak to especially the politics of the United States. So, people changing their minds, people being divided. I mentioned in the beginning, right, that the United States of America has Mars in Gemini. And so, we were never going to be a united front on the way that we think about things, right? There's always going to be that opposition or that room for discussion. And so that diversity is what allows change, right? If you so I'm a beekeeper. So
Gemini rules siblings, the battling brothers we could think about, or siblings of the United States.
Oh yeah, right. Right. But it's that diversity and that difference of opinion and way of seeing things and perspective that creates growth at all. So if you're thinking about like genetics, like I do in beekeeping, you don't want to just breed the same thing over and over and over again. You want to have a little with this good characteristic and a little with this good characteristic and create something new. So it's not bad that we have these different perspectives. It's not bad that you change your mind. It is an opportunity to see things differently. And it should open the conversations rather than shut doors. It should be an interesting time. And yeah, I think what you said about people getting a little testy is going to be true. So hopefully you astrologers out there, you seekers of truth, hopefully you are the change. You are the peace. You are the ones that are the spiritual leaders. You're directing the conversation back to reality. When something gets inflamed, you are the ones that can bring that center, cool charm that is attraction rather than promotion. So that's the good side of learning what's coming, right? Like you can just be like, there it is,
Mm-hmm. Oh, Dennis is asking about earthquakes. I don't see more earthquakes with Mars and Jupiter and Gemini squaring Saturn and Pisces, but Mars just started a brand new cycle, and Tiffany started talking about this at the beginning a little bit, where Mars met Uranus conjunct this really feared fixed star called Algol, which is known for earthquakes, on Monday, July 15th. And Uranus, and in the sign of Taurus, an earth sign. So Uranus is the planet of earthquakes. So they started a new 2-year cycle that's going to have this flavor that's very combustible and earth shaking. So yeah, there might be some earthquakes going on, but it's not the Gemini part. It's more of the Mars and Taurus and Uranus part.
Yeah.
As Mars moves forward, it'll make aspects to Uranus, and at some point there may be some earthquake associated with it. But Uranus is the planet of earthquakes. Also Pluto, we can see it associated with these mass catastrophes.
Yeah. Okay, let's hang out in that July 15th Uranus Mars topic a little bit longer. This is juicy. This is so juicy. Do you guys like the juicy astrology? Here we are. So when we're talking about the Uranus Mars moment, I think for President Trump, it came during an assassination attempt a couple of days prior. I'm just going to say Mars rules Aries rules the head. And so he took a bullet, right, to the head, right? So on the ear, and there's blood, that's Mars. The Uranus-Mars algol conjunction happened at the top of his chart where it's very public. The 10th house represents career, life-changing moment that happened for him that catapulted him into the public eye where he's seen more and more, right? And so this is that alone, just having that take place at the very top of your chart, very interesting. Like, where are his astrologers? I'm curious who's advising.
Well, he obviously doesn't have one. Because if he did, he would have been more cautious about his personal safety then, because that transit, Mars conjunct Uranus at 26 Taurus, was squaring his Leo Mars at 26 Leo, and his Mars is conjunct his ascendant at 29 Leo, and the ascendant is the physical body. So this attack, Mars attacks, unexpectedly Uranus, shockingly in public, squaring his Mars, his natal Mars. And this is when things pop into our lives. So some people get nervous about transits that have nothing to do with them really directly, because it's not touching any of their personal planets. But this would be like, oh, if I was his astrologer, I would tell him to be very careful around this time, especially 5 days before this July 15th. So,
so like clockwork.
But the attack happened 2 days before the first quarter moon. The first quarter moon in Libra, first to take action.
And
that's you know when what? The shooter took action. Yeah.
Right. And speaking of the shooter, like how would you predict who was the shooter in the audience? You wouldn't, we wouldn't like scan out everybody's birth charts upon arrival. But go ahead.
We could look at Trump's chart, and he had Mercury in his 12th house of hidden enemies transiting, Mercury and Leo. So what you would do would be watching out for a Mercury and Leo person, because it was King Kong, Saturn, and Pisces, and that's a health aspect. So when I saw this, I thought, ooh, a young person, a male, maybe a redhead, like would be what I would have been looking for.
And that's really what you described perfectly. So, as things have developed and as the shooter has been revealed and his chart has been revealed, it's public information. It's not something that we're unethically reading here. But what I found fascinating was that the shooter, Crooks, he has Uranus Mars natally. He's born with Uranus Mars, right? And so that very combustible energy is within him, right? This isn't a bad thing. It's just to note that his Uranus Mars natally fell right in Trump's 7th house, exactly the house of open enemies, right? And so very interesting placement. I also saw that
his Uranus is at 29 Aquarius, exactly opposite Donald Trump's ascendant at 29 Leo. And Uranus is, the planet of, like, it breaks rules. It's just sudden shocks. It awakens things.
And I want you to talk a little bit, because it's in the anaretic degree, and I like how you teach that. So so the 29th degree is considered the anaretic degree. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Let me just answer Rosie. So you can pull his chart, because we know his birth date, and his birth date is, let me just tell you about the shooter. Thomas Crooks is September 20th, 2003. So you could just cast a chart at noon, and in Bethel Park, Pennsylvania is where I put it. We don't know his whole chart. We just know some of the basics because we have his birth date. And but
his Uranus in the anaretic degree is not going to change by an hour or two.
It doesn't matter.
We're solid in that reporting. And so, I was just hoping you could teach a little bit more about the importance of that particular degree.
Yeah, so 29 is the last degree of the signs. The signs are 0 to 29, and they each have 30 degrees. 0 is this new, fresh energy where it's like a baby starting to figure out, how to crawls in and starting to figure out. By the time you get to the 29th degree, it's like an elder, it's the kid is an adult. So it holds all the energy of the sign. And it's this degree of crisis and decay that's trying to get something done before it changes signs. So there's always some kind of something of crisis and decay. Now, Uranus in Aquarius, Aquarius rules Uranus, and Aquarius is a sign of extremes, and it's a sign of the collective. And Uranus suggests this person felt separate from the collective, like he was a black sheep, an outsider. He was bullied mercifully as a child. And what's interesting is his Mars is at 0 degrees of Pisces. So he was this baby crawling, trying to be a fighter in Pisces, and he couldn't shoot straight. He tried to be in a rifle club in high school, and he got kicked out because he was such a bad shooter. He was pulling all over the place. So this is my thought about what went on. So I think he didn't attack President Trump for political reasons. I feel like it was a Leonic display of him trying to, I'll show you I can shoot straight. I'm going to try to assassinate a presidential candidate. And apparently he searched for, this came out yesterday, they found in his phone for President Biden and former President Trump, looking at both of their conventions and schedules. So this is what I think went on with him. He was trying to prove something.
Yeah.
And the song for the Celestial Insights podcast, the song for that day, sometimes I just get a song coming in, was We Don't Need Another Hero by Tina Turner. I'm quoting that one temporarily.
Whoa, right. Jeez.
Because look how heroic Trump looked. He took a bullet to his ear or glass, whatever it was. It doesn't matter. He got injured and like came fighting the Secret Service off of him so that he could pump his fist. My podcast was called Wrestling with a Pig, and pig is a pejorative for, police officer. So he was wrestling with them and his shoe came off. Like this was that Saturn in Pisces. Pisces rules me. Yeah. And he's communicating. Mercury King comes Saturn. He's saying, where's my shoe? Where's my shoe? And then he struggles up like Braveheart, Mars and Leo. The blood and everything. It's so iconic.
It's so iconic. And the American flag in the background. I mean, the whole thing was like, whoa. I mean, you could see the astrology in action so clearly, and you talked about the shooter looking at the different candidates or the different people. And I wanted to kind of lead us into this August 19th date because I think was it you? Did you point this out to me? Is that the date that the Democratic National Convention starts? Okay.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that, but what I did know was that August 19th looked like another very interesting time in astrology. So as we're looking at that, what we're seeing is that Jupiter and Saturn, the two Titans, are squaring each other for the first of a series of 3 that will play out over the next, from now until next year. And so this Jupiter-Saturn square is exact on August 19th. The same day, the sun squares Uranus, right? Unexpected changes, things not going as planned, very volatile energy. The same day, there was a full moon in 27 degrees of Aquarius. And that means that the sun is at 27 Leo. And so there's a lot of potential action around August 19th. So good news, bad news, who knows? But I would circle that as a day to watch, especially for astrology in action in the media, especially around the politics of the United States. So what are some of your hot takes on that?
Okay, so I think we need to be looking at Donald Trump. So,
Okay.
now he's like this hero who's been through battles. He's getting all this, uplift. I think so. He is a Gemini, and Mars is going to go through his 10th house, his very public 10th house. We need to watch for when Mars comes to Uranus in his public 10th house, because I think there's going to be, because that Jupiter Saturn square, Jupiter will be on his Uranus, and then Mars is coming, and it squares Saturn and Pisces. I think there's going to be something released about him of a martial nature that's shocking, that is an attempt to, I can I just say what I think it's going to be? I could be totally wrong.
Yeah. Why
totally wrong, but I've been seeing some things on the internet that make me think this is going to be related to Jeffrey Epstein's island, that there's going to be something coming out around that. And Mars rules sex. Gemini is like young people, so we've got something about like teenagers, or I don't know. Because another thing with that big transit, it's Sun square Uranus. Like Uranus is shocking, and it's like not doing things the right, like doing criminality is Uranus, and like really sick stuff is Uranus. Perversion can be. Mm-hmm. And Venus is in Virgo at that time. Venus in Virgo is symbolic of the virgin, a young woman, and it's opposite that Saturn and Pisces. So I could totally be wrong, but Pisces is like videotape. Pisces is movies. And Saturn, like Saturn rules like things like torture, and I'm getting some real ugly stuff. Let's move on. But that's, you get the picture. Right. One of the stories of that transit, as well as the Democrats fighting for who is going to be the leader.
And if you think about Saturn and Pisces too, and feet, and that feeling of the other shoe dropping, and that tension that's like, what's going to happen, and when is it going to come down on us? Like that whole vibe that you're describing, right? Like that's a very real part of our world, and you're not assigning blame or to anybody in particular. You're just describing a very unfortunate sign of the times. And so to me, it's like, what is the evolutionary potential? What is possible on the good side of all of that, right? Is that it gets purged and cleared up. Another thing that we haven't really brought up is that the United States is still going through its Pluto return. And so all of the characters, all of the stories, the worst possible stories, the best possible stories, all of these are archetypes, right, of our human experience that are coming up for the purging and the purification, which is part of the Pisces nature. And so Saturn and Neptune are at that end of Pisces right now during the Pluto return, where there has to be something very revolting in order for there to be a purification. If I feel kind of bad, I'm not going to do anything about it, but if I feel really bad and I get to that level where I need to do something about it, right, that's where real change can happen. So I have that experience with my health. I have that experience with my sobriety. I have that experience with my spirituality. I let things get to a point until I can't handle it anymore, and then I have to do something about it. And that is how I'm seeing through the Tiffany lens of these uglier, darker topics that are coming up. It's for bubbling out, changing, and healing. And you see it a lot in the media, right? Neptune and Pisces talking about movies and documentaries and media. And there's so much that you can watch about cults and coming out of cults. And there's so much that you can watch about, entertain. Like you think about the Bill Cosby expose. You think about entertainers that we thought were gods that aren't, right? And so that was kind of my point earlier. It's like people are people. And so this is a part of our own evolution of understanding that putting our faith in people, like they're going to change, they're going to fall. You and I, like none of us are perfect human beings here. So there has to be a spiritualization going on with the end of Neptune and Pisces. I started looking at next year, which we're not going to get.
Can I say something else?
Oh, please. Yeah, get in there.
All that stuff I just said, that potentially that could be Donald Trump and Epstein. it could be someone totally else. It's probably
Exactly.
like a Gemini, and I just flashed through my mind. Kanye West is another one. This could all be about Kanye, or it could be about somebody totally different. A lot of times I see the picture, but it's the totally different person. Yeah, but
Right.
that's something I think is of the nature of what we're going to see with this August 19th around there, because there's a full moon where all is revealed. Something comes out big, shocking, right in our faces. Mm.
The Sabian symbol for that full moon at 27 Aquarius is a tree felled and sawed to ensure a supply of wood for the winter. And so this might be a stretch for some of you, but it to me, it really parallels what I was talking about. Like, we got to cut something down, burn it up, turn it into fuel for something better that is needed at this time. And so I think it's a really interesting Sabian symbol to go along with this juicy, crazy topic.
And
So
the
I
sun on that day is many little birds shrimp on the limbs of a large tree. So I saw that as all the Democrats trying to fight and jockey for a position, because like now Biden has COVID. I mean, maybe he's going to stay in the race. But Saturn in Pisces is opposite his midheaven, and it's stationed there. This is Biden is a great example of a stationing planet, and Saturn governs failure, like physical weakness, like the elderly, the chronic breaking down. And Pisces, the last sign of the zodiac. Now he's got COVID. Is it going to turn into pneumonia? Will his lungs fill up? Like, it's just a mess. Yeah.
It's a mess. Bless him. Bless both candidates. Bless all the candidates.
Yeah. We want everybody to be healthy. Yeah.
Yes.
We don't want anyone to be hurt or sick or anything. But this is what we're dealing with.
Right. And we're just describing the astrology of it all, right? So yeah, it doesn't look so hot there. So
but it's our Pluto return. It looks exactly like a Pluto return should be. Like,
it does.
Breaking down. And most Americans are not happy about either of these candidates. So yeah, we are seeing all this rot exposed. Yeah, that's what Pluto returns do.
And this whole like COVID thing, we were talking earlier about assassination attempts don't have to look like a public shooter at a public rally. They can look like biochemical warfare too. So you never really know what's going on behind the scenes. That's Neptune and Pisces. You never really know. There's a really interesting, entertaining illusion that people are looking at while other things are going on over here. So, I guess just keep that in mind. To me, that's why I get so passionate and intense about spiritual development, because you have got to trust yourself, because there's a lot of chaos and things to not trust. You have to know your inner voice. You have to know the voice of the one that you're listening to, right? You have to discern that among all of the chaos. Jupiter and Gemini are like, discernment was your word for this year. There's a lot of information coming at us. So, don't believe us. Believe yourself. Trust yourself. Did you hear something that we said that resonated for you? Go with it. I think we should wrap up soon because...
Oh, okay. Yeah, I want to talk about, because you talked about psychic development.
Okay.
So Tiffany has created this incredible 40-day journey called 40 Days of Spirit. And I have been doing it, and it has been, Tiffany, it's really, really incredible, where the purpose is to deepen your intuition, and every day you get different lessons, and every day we're doing meditations and learning all kinds of things about intuition. And yeah, so I want to thank you for creating this, and people can still go get it. And you can start at any time.
Yeah.
And you can go to tiffanyharelik.com. And can I give them my discount code? Or
yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can use discount code ABC40 for a 40% discount on 40 Days of Spirit. It's really wonderful. And the other day I was going to sleep, and I saw like a raven came into my mind, and it was looking at me. And so I was like, oh, I'm getting a signal. Yeah. And so I went and I have this book about animal symbolism. And what it was telling me that in my dream life, it is safe to go to sleep because the raven is protecting me.
I love
And I have Mars in Gemini, and Gemini rules my 12th house. And a lot of times I have a hard time slowing my mind to get to sleep. And I wonder if there's something about self protection. And like, I have a hard time going to sleep. I had a traumatic childhood because I've got to be on alert in the dream state. So I'm hoping that by the end of this, I've got a new relaxation off to sleep kind of thing where my mind can slow down and shut off with this. I'm feeling calmer, so calmer. And we're only, what, 2 weeks into it or a week or so into it.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Rosie loves it. Anne is saying 40 Days of Spirit is incredible. Yeah. You can go to
I mean, y'all, I did this because I was like pressured by spirit. I woke up every morning feeling the pressure to do it. I know it's the right time. We had 100 people go through the first round of it, or are in the first round of it. And it to me, that was like a nice indication. But what I didn't see coming was that I too was going through 40 days of spirit. And so I too am deepening my connection and going through the processes and the journal prompts. And, you know, I'm not separate or different from the process. I just used all of the lessons from my life and my wisdom, experience, strength, and hope to put it in a sequential order that I feel like was given to me. So, yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I hope it serves many, many people. You know, I hope that you guys, the feedback that I'm getting is incredible. People are having miracles. People are having, like random healings. Like it is beyond me. Of course it's beyond me what is happening through this interesting little product. And it's priced, the pre-sale price was $39. It's now $59. Celeste has a code if you wanted to hear it and go back and listen to it and use it, you can. And that price will
40.
ABC 40, and that will increase later this year. It is such a good deal. There's videos, there's audios, there's meditations, there's written stuff. So no matter how you learn, I feel like you'll get something out of it. I have people tell me that they also are just going slower, and so you don't have to cram it all in 40 days. If you need to space it out, that's okay.
I'm going slower. Yeah.
But yeah. So okay, what I want to do before we go is I want to talk about your retreat. I want to talk about my retreat, and then I want to talk about the health, the pitfalls, and the positives in a bullet point way about Mars and Gemini, because that's why people came here today. Yeah. So Celeste, my sweet dear friend, tell us about your moon workshop through OPA.
Yeah. Yes. And I just want to let Marilyn know that that was my prediction too. Marilyn is talking about the health diagnosis allows Biden to step down a little bit more gracefully, because Biden and Trump are very similar in some ways in that they both have Sun trine Jupiter, and that can be a big ego. Now, Donald Trump's is in our face because it's in air signs, but Joe Biden's is in water signs. So it's a little bit more internal and personal. But you have to have a big ego to want to be president. Anyway, that's a tangent. Okay, so moon mastery. The moon is my jam. So I am a Cancer rising. I'm a Taurus sun, Aries moon, Cancer rising, and moon rules Cancer. And her cycles are incredible. And one of the things, you know, I was studying astrology for a while, well before I started to get like deeply into the moon. My teacher, Rebecca Gordon, was the one who started me on the moon. And watching these cycles come to life. Now, first of all, understanding your natal moon teaches you so much about yourself. The moon phase you were born is another layer. The people in your life, understanding their moon signs, because it's your subconscious, it's your behaviors, it's what you need to feel safe. It is so key to our personalities. Our sun is our conscious mind, our moon is our subconscious mind, our ascendant is what our soul is rising up to. Now, Moon Mastery is my signature program that teaches you everything about your moon, to understand yourself, but also like the moon cycles to help you plan and achieve goals, as well as the eclipses, understanding these are the big times and like when things are coming into our lives and our karmic, what's going on karmically for us when eclipses activate our natal charts. So I'm teaching moon mastery for 3 days in Park City, Utah. It's a 5-day retreat for the Organization of Professional Astrologers, OPA. And you can go to opaastrology.org to check it out. It is going to be fantastic. There will be like 100, maybe 125 of us total there. But my moon mastery will be a maximum of 9 people. And you'll bring your chart and someone else's chart. And we will go so deep into the moon. It's for all levels. If you're new to astrology, as long as you know the basics of the signs, you'll be able to keep up. And we'll look at our lives in the past, the present, and what's coming up for our future. And it's great if you have goals. And yeah, I still have 3 spaces left. So if you are interested, definitely sign up as soon as possible. The price goes up August 10th. So thank you. Thank you, Tiffany, for putting that out. I would love for you to join. It's going to be fantastic. This is my first time teaching it live. I've always taught it on Zoom before. So I'm so excited about how interactive and intimate it's going to be with these other 9 souls.
There's something different about teaching live. I mean, it's just a whole different experience. So I hope you guys get that opportunity to learn from Celeste, because she doesn't hold anything back. You know, I think that's something that we have in common. We just give it all to you, you know. So you get to
40 days of spirit. I'm like, Tiffany, this is $1,000 product.
Yeah.
So, Rosie made a great comment. Yes, Christopher Renstrom will be there, Ann Ortley, Lynn Bell, Gemini Brett, Sam Reynolds, Kira Sutherland. These are all other teachers there. Kay Taylor. This is going to be an incredible retreat, and it's going to be intimate. So you may be sitting at dinner next to Ann Ortley one night and get to pick her brain. She's brilliant. Or any of these other astrologers. I'm sure I'm forgetting some of them. Apologies, but yeah, it's a stellar group of astrologers.
Amazing.
Okay.
I'm
just so honored. I can't believe I'm even there in the company of these people.
I can. Oh my gosh. I remember your last new moon in Leo wish and intention. And so, I mean, this is just playing out. It's like you plant an apple seed, an apple tree is going to grow. I'm not surprised at all. You know, like you are absolutely a star among stars, and not just deserving a seat at the table, but like, man, I mean, that's your table. So I go enjoy it and shine. Like that. It is such a cool time to be studying astrology with the people that are leading in our field. There's a lot of weird astrology out there, but the OPA conference, you know, this is bringing some of the best together. So what a cool opportunity. Absolutely. It's in October. And so I want to bring us back to a few things about Mars and Gemini, and thank you guys for being here, for hanging out.
Tell your retreat.
Well, I was going to, and I'm like, it doesn't sound so cool after the OPA retreat.
Oh, come on, Tiffany.
I'll tell you about my retreat, guys, my cute little retreat. So I'm doing a retreat in Austin. I see some of you guys in the chat that are going to be there that have already confirmed. So thank you. We're doing it in September. It's the weekend after Labor Day. And so it'll be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And it's a nice, easy, fun. It's not this intensity of, fear of missing out on all of the things. So we are going to get up early and do yoga and meditation for those who want to. But if you don't want to do yoga and meditation, you can join us at 9 for the coffee bar. We're in a beautiful home that is overlooking like the Hollywood Hills of Austin. It has one of the best views in the city. It's just so gorgeous. And so you feel like you're in this tree house. It's super high end, you know, very luxurious feeling, comfortable. It's my friend's home. She's a quadruple Cancer, so you know it feels good in that house. And I have 5 topics that I'm going to cover. And so we're going to have 5 different topics over the course of the 3 days. Because I'm from Austin, I have chosen to not cater, but to do a food delivery of all of my favorite restaurants. So you're going to get a taste of Austin. And one day we'll do Tex-Mex, another day we'll do some barbecue, another day we'll do super healthy bowls. And I'm really excited about it. I have a boat ride planned for you guys. So if you wanted to get out on the lake while you're in town, you can. And we'll always wrap up by 3. So you have the whole afternoon to do whatever you want. We have an amazing massage therapist on site. You can book a extra time slot with her. The prices are so reasonable. I think I'm going to book twice. And you can also book time to do a one-on-one session with me. If you've done retreat with me before, then you get either a free session or a $250 discount. So that's at my website too. And it's under the Astrology, under retreats. And I'll put the link up for you guys.
I think it sounds fantastic, Tiffany. I wish I could come. I'm going to be in Mexico.
Oh,
Rosie,
yeah.
are you coming to Utah? Yeah, I want to personally invite any of you to come to Tiffany's retreat, my retreat, or both of them. Gemini likes you to do things twice, both retreats. Yeah.
That's right. That is right.
Okay.
Amazing. Okay, I'm just going back to my notes here. Just to, I guess, in closing, as you're looking at Mars and Gemini, we're looking at the dates July 20th through September 4th of 2024. We're considering the fact that Mars and Jupiter are going to be conjunct mid-August. And we're also considering the fact that Mercury, the ruler of Gemini, will be retrograde August 5th through 28th, right? And then during this time, you might notice some Mars and Gemini themes more strongly. So in health, Gemini rules not only the shoulders and wrists and hands and lungs and some of all of the pieces in between. It also rules hay fever. It also rules the thymus gland. It rules the respiratory system. And Mars has that aggressive knife-like blood-inducing side to it. So the fact that there's some more COVID news is not surprising to us all. We can see it, right? The pitfalls, right? The pitfalls of, and also the nervous system. Sorry, I have to say that. If you have go ahead.
So Mars square Saturn. Mars and Gemini square Saturn and Pisces can be people in the streets, in conflict, like a protest. This could be anywhere around the world. And Saturn and Pisces, the police, Saturn, the authority letting off gas, like tear gas or something. So people who have asthma could have a real problem. So if you're protesting anywhere around the world, you want to make sure you have a gas mask, especially for asthma.
Such an awful thing.
Even to me to come up with this. Tiffany's all sunshine and light. She's a Jupiter carrying person. I have Saturn on my sun. I can see how you need to protect yourself from the potential, the shadows of everything. I'm Mercury trine Pluto. I cannot help it. I try.
Right. It's the malefic side of things, you know. I'm over here like maybe somebody will take their shoe off and throw it, and you're like,
I remember when George Bush in Iraq, I think it was like, oh, he had good reflexes. I wonder what the astrology of that day was. What was going on with Pisces?
I know.
Or stay home. Yeah, that would be my advice, Marilyn. Like I'm staying out of crowds as much as I can before that full moon.
So other areas of health with Gemini is the nervous system. Mars inflames things, makes things hot. So if that's you, right, like the cooling herbs, the mint tea, the cooling foods, the watery foods, the cantaloupes, watermelons, leafy greens, things that cool the nervous system. You know, this is such a small thing, right? If you have a majorly inflamed nervous system, a little mint cucumber watermelon salad ain't going to do the trick. But if you're on a day-to-day basis, like just just bringing it top of mind, thinking like, okay, yes, something is inflamed. Something, I'm having an allergic reaction to something. It could be an allergic reaction to a relationship, a city, a food that you're eating that you're not aware of. We were talking about Saturn and Pisces and the skin, and right, like the having that allergic reaction and getting to the bottom of it, getting to the bottom of it. Looking at that gut brain health axis is so important, right? Especially during this time. We those are some of the health things, some of the pitfalls, and then we'll end on the positives. Is going down rabbit holes, just like getting
My
lost in
favorite.
information. Like losing all time and space because you just went off on this other topic, right? Not always a bad thing, but it can really scatter your energy, scatter your focus, lose your focus. Mars and Gemini divides. It can cause division. You might need that. It might be a beneficial thing to say, I don't want to do that anymore. I want to stop this habit, right? Saturn and Pisces, and do something else. I want a new habit. I want to be divisive. A bird just flew into my window while I said that. So Mars and Gemini, we also, I think you must have written this part, or did I write? I don't know, whatever. We wrote sibling rivalry. We wrote about fear of missing out. Like there's so much going on. Like Celeste said earlier, don't have that. Just sit this one out, just, you didn't need to be there. If the green lights weren't there, just accept it. Yeah, and getting out of that fight or flight mentality, being aware of your mouth as a weapon, right? Does it need to be said? Does it need to be said by me? Does it need to be said right now? Is what I'm doing promote? Do I want to be right? Do I want there to be peace? Like all of those things. Like look at your motivations, Mars, for what you're saying, and listening. And so, anything? Do you want to add to the pitfalls before we do the positives?
No, that was excellent. Lisa Wright says, Alice in Wonderland themes, off with their heads, Algol, follow the rabbit. That was one of the things I said, pulling a rabbit out of the hat from last week. And that's what Trump did, pulling this, unintentionally, almost being assassinated, has given him a bump in his popularity, and he's becoming like a mythical figure who can't be stopped by the Justice Department, by bullet, by anything. Yeah,
very interesting. Okay, so now that you said that, I'm so sorry, but I
feel like that train is coming. Jupiter and Gemini is going. But what's Saturn and Pisces going to mean for the Trump train? That's the question.
And what's the Jupiter square going to mean for it? It'll be interesting to see.
That's what I mean. Jupiter square Saturn.
Oh, sorry. I'm on track now.
Oh, sorry. Well, sometimes you know how it goes, Tiffany. This brain gets a little ahead of itself sometimes.
Yeah, Mars and Gemini, we get ahead of ourselves. So let that be a lesson, right, for all of us in this season. Okay, I want to end on the positives. There's room for a lot of different ideas. There's a room for people to agree to disagree. What are your strategies for fighting fair? What are your strategies for arguments and confrontations? Because a lot of people are designed to avoid truth and confrontation and consequences. It's in their design. They don't want to have it. They would rather have that codependency and have everybody be people pleasing and have everybody be nice and straight. Is this a moment for you to overcome some of that and to learn some new skills and strategies, right? Through good counseling, through whatever. Allow room for people to have a different thought without having an emotional response to it. Mars and Gemini, this is a prolific moment for people that produce content. This is a prolific moment for people that write, that podcast, that educate, that teach. This is a moment when you have downloads and can get a lot out and then get it out there. What an interesting time to be, publishing something. I wrote down
myself under control. Oh God, I'm really gonna have to be aware of the pitfalls with Mars coming to Jupiter.
Yeah, totally.
As a Mars and Gemini person. Yeah.
Rosie's saying that Stormy's having a YouTube class. I'm taking it. I bought it yesterday. I'm in it. So if you're taking Stormy's YouTube class, I will see you in there. I can't wait to learn from her. That's a really good point. Like getting your face out there and your legacy. I like how Stormy teaches about that too. It's like what
Got to
legacy
take
do
it
you leave?
too.
Get in on it. It's $175. It's such a great deal. It's 5 Saturdays in August, and I have my questions ready. So I'm like the worst student because I'm like, I have a question about everything. I write everything down, and it's like I have to temper my questions. But anyways, yes. Positives about Gemini. Do you need 2 forms of transportation? Do you need to consider like backup plans? Do you need to consider roommates? Do you need to consider improvements in memory? What are you doing to enhance your memory? What are you doing to enhance your intelligence and letting your intelligence be your flex instead of, whatever else? I don't know what you're flexing with, but intelligence could be a flex during this time
Something
too.
besides my intelligence to be my flex for a change.
What do you want?
My smile, my booty.
Right. And if it was your smile, then you'd want your intelligence to be your flex. Like it's
sorry. See, that's saying out loud, the quiet part out loud. But now I'm, those days are over. I'm just kidding. I'm happy to have my intelligence as my flex.
Well, okay, that's a whole other topic. But guys, I hope you have enjoyed this. This was really fun. I think we covered so much. If you came in at the end, please go back. This is not a basic entry-level conversation. I think we really spoke at a higher intermediate level, at least, to people that are following astrology or interested in the changing times. We can't control the future. We're not trying to plan it and manipulate it and manage it. What we're trying to do is provide a weather forecast so that you can be excited about astrology in action, so that you can see it, that you can learn it, and that you can understand that there's a map in the sky that is clearly conveying to us the plans here on Earth. And so how fun is it to be here and learn about astrology with your best friends, Celeste and Tiffany?
Yes, thank you, Marilyn. Marilyn's so great. She's like, and like and subscribe to help the algorithm. So please like and subscribe to both Tiffany Harelik on YouTube and Astrology by Celeste on YouTube. And drop a comment. Yeah, that would be wonderful. Thank you, Marilyn. To remind us, that's something you're going to learn in the YouTube class. Always tell people to like and subscribe to your channel. I forget these things sometimes, but I get so excited about the astrology.
I do too. Yeah. So, well, awesome, Celeste. You're so cool. Thanks for hanging out with me and all of our
Tiffany. Love you too. We're gonna stay on after we stop, right?
Yeah, we're gonna stay on, but we're gonna end the stream.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I hope you have a beautiful experience with Mars and Gemini. Yes, yes. All the fun high road stuff.